Hey, want to play an online multiplayer game where one of you is a classic horror movie monster and the rest of you are survivors who are trying to repair a damaged piece of machinery so that way you can escape them? Want it to be good? Hello everyone and welcome to the 31 Days of THORGIWEEN, where every day this month we're taking a look at the spookier side of our geeky obsessions. And a few weeks ago I did a review of the Friday the 13th game, and I said it had some good stuff going for it, but it was too basic and too glitchy and too expensive for what it was offering. And one of the reasons I was being so harsh on it is because it's hard to defend something when there's a much better, much cheaper game that does the exact same thing. That's why today I'm going to review Dead by Daylight. Now, the basic concept of this game is you and 3 other players are dropped into a map as survivors, while another player is a killer who will try to prevent the rest of you from escaping. Yes, it has the exact same concept as the Friday the 13th game. However, I give this one a few more points for creativity simply because this game actually came first, and also because, well, it's just better. Way better. Yeah, in case you haven't figured it out, this review is going to be filled with comparisons to the Friday the 13th game, and I know I should judge this game solely on its own, but I just did a review of the Friday the 13th game 2 weeks ago. If I don't compare it to that game, it's going to largely feel like I'm doing the exact same review twice. Now, the first comparison I have to make is variety. In Friday the 13th, you can play in 3 different locations, and the killer can be many different types of Jason, but it's still Jason, and they each play about 90% the same. Here, there's roughly 10 different locations, and each of them are about the same size, but they each have their own unique theme or style to them. Sometimes you'll be in a cornfield, a swamp, an abandoned gas station, basically just any place you wouldn't want to find yourself in during a horror film. Also, this game features 7 different killers to hunt down these survivors, 9 if you include DLC, and they're each very unique as they each have their own pros and cons and special powers. For example, the Wraith can turn invisible and move quickly, but when he comes out of invisible mode, he announces his presence with a bell chime, giving the survivors plenty of time to escape. The Doctor can drive you insane, which will cause your character to scream out every now and again so that they announce their location, and they will keep thinking that they're seeing the Doctor when it's just a hallucination. The Huntress can throw her axe at you, giving her a lot of range attacks, but she will announce her presence from a mile away by humming. However, in all honesty, that actually added to the game because it would freak me the fudge out every time I heard it. And on the opposite end of that spectrum is the Shape. He isn't fast, so he has to get in close to kill his opponent. However, his musical warning doesn't start until he is right on top of you. Wait, the Shape? That's Michael Myers! That's right, the classic horror movie slasher Michael Myers was added to this game as DLC last year, and this year they threw in Leatherface, and they announced that the next added DLC character was going to be Freddy Krueger. Yeah, I don't want to just keep hammering on the Friday the 13th game, but the one thing it really had going for it was that you could be a classic horror movie monster, and now in this one, you can be 3. But even if you don't pay for DLC, the monsters that they created just for this game are pretty darn cool. I don't mean in terms of powers and design, I mean in terms of backstory and flavor. Yeah, this game has a ton of passion behind it, and nothing shows that more than the lore that they put into this game. They didn't just design some monsters and step back and said, there, our work is done. They wrote backstories to each of these monsters, and they're pretty darn creepy. I would actually watch a movie about any of these characters. And it's not just them, the locations and even the survivors each have their own backstories as well. You can tell just from looking at this how much these creators didn't just want to make an interesting game, they wanted to make an experience. This is the creation of horror movie junkies who had their own unique ideas that they wanted to share. And the backstory and lore that they put into this game go beyond the characters. Each monster is trying to sacrifice you to some giant Lovecraftian space spider, and there's lore to that. You gain experience points by filling out a Final Fantasy style sphere grid called the Blood Web, and there's a lore to that. You'll gain offerings that you can sacrifice at the start of the match to gain perks, and there's a lore to them too. Here on the Professor Thorgy channel, we basically celebrate just being a geek, and this game was made by horror geeks, and it shows. So the flavor of this game is amazing, but what about the actual gameplay? Now, as I said, you can choose to either be a killer or a survivor, and if you're a survivor, you'll be dropped into a map and you'll have to find 5 generators and turn them on to open up the doors to the facility, and then use those doors to escape. Now, activating the generators is pretty easy, you just have to walk up to them and press the R1 button. However, every now and again, the generator will give you a QuickTime event, which is fairly simple to hit, except that when you're so busy looking around to see if a killer is approaching you, then you'll probably be too distracted to notice it. And if you miss a QuickTime event, then it will make the generator explode, which tells the killer where you are. And as the killer, you have to either kill the survivors or you have to grab them and put them on a hook, where they will have to struggle to escape. But if they can't, then they'll be sacrificed. Now, the survivors can't fight back. There's no weapons or tools to distract the killer, and the killer is faster than the survivors, so you have to be clever how you escape them. You can put objects in your way to slow them down and jump through windows that they can't, but aside from that, you have to really just hide and run as fast as you can. However, just to compare this again to the Friday the 13th game, while that game gave you ways to fight back, I did say that Jason felt a little overpowered compared to the campers. In this game, the controls on the killers are actually kind of wonky. Like when you swing, you have to be right on top of them to hit them, and after you take a swing, you'll have to pause to recharge yourself, which can give the survivor plenty of time to get away. And also, while the survivors look at themselves in third-person perspective, the killers are looking at the game in first-person perspective, and there are so many tight corridors in these areas that, yeah, it can actually make it kind of hard to follow these campers. You actually can lose them pretty easily, which actually is a good thing. Yes, it makes controlling the killers a bit odd, but it feels like that was done on purpose, because it makes the game way more balanced, like you actually had a chance at surviving. And you really want to survive, because in this game you'll get experience points for each game you play, and you can use those experience points on the Blood Web, which is your level up system, and each level of the Blood Web gives you different items that you can use. These items can either be skills to boost your character, offerings that can give you a boost at the start of each match, or they can be items that you can take into a match, such as a toolbox to repair generators faster, or first aid kits to heal other players. However, the skills you get to keep forever, but the items that you take into a match will be lost if you die. That's right, it's gone forever. That's an amazing mechanic, because these monsters are supposed to scare you, but it's a game. They're not really going to hurt you, unless they programmed in here a mechanic that makes the monster actually take something away from you that you worked hard to achieve. Yeah, that makes these matches so much more tense and actually makes you freak out when they start coming at you, because it's not just game over, it's also you losing an item that you really wanted to hold on to. So there is so much in this game to applaud, including the connection. I haven't even mentioned that yet, but yeah, this game has been out for months on the PlayStation, years on the PC, and I still found a match quickly every single time. I rarely ever had to wait for a new game. Heck, I couldn't even find a match that quickly in the Friday the 13th game the weekend it came out. And also, they're pretty smart about how they host these matches. Rather than having a random survivor host the match, so that way if they log off because they got too salty, then the whole match is ruined, in this game, the killer hosts the match. So as many survivors can log off as they want, and this game will keep going as long as the killer sticks around. And if the killer logs off, then it counts as a win for the survivors, so the killer can't even get back at them by rage quitting. That's a pretty smart way to go about this. And this is a game that actually encourages teamwork. Again, one of the problems I had with the Friday the 13th game is that the only purpose of that game is to escape the camp. Meaning that they did not turn friendly fire off between the campers, so a camper can go up to you after you spent all this time fixing up a car and finding the keys, kill you, take the keys from you, and escape, something that happened to me many times, and they would actually be rewarded for that. In this game, not only can you not turn on each other, you actually get extra experience points for going back and helping each other, rescuing each other, healing each other. This is a game for team players, not crazy loners. However, all throughout this video, I've been applauding this game and constantly comparing it to the Friday the 13th game and saying all the ways that's better than that one. But there is one area where the Friday the 13th game isn't just better, it's way better than this game. No, it's not just the mandatory voice comm and the cinematic kills, although those are pretty nice. It's the goals. As I said, the goal in these games are to escape, but in Dead by Daylight, you can escape by turning on 5 generators and opening the doors, and that's pretty much it. There are also some hatches that will open up after enough time has passed, but it's rare that you'll make it that long. However, in the Friday the 13th game, you can assemble the parts of a car and drive it away. Assemble the parts of a boat and sail it away. You can also call the cops. You can wait till time expires. And if you're lucky enough and everything goes right, you can even kill Jason. That gives your gameplay so much more variety. This game is fun, and it does take so long to start these generators that it is an incredibly tense experience looking around to see if the killer is coming for you. However, when every single game is going to have the exact same goal, it makes this get old pretty quick. Don't get me wrong, I still really dig it, but I have to take a break after every few matches to keep it from getting old to me. Whereas with the Friday the 13th game, the variety in that game helped me overlook a lot of its problems and kept me playing. And when you consider how much lore and attention to these backstories they put into this game, you'd imagine with 10 different maps and 7 different killers, they put in there something to make each experience feel different, like a different way to escape on each map, a different way to fight and stall each monster. If they had done that, I wouldn't really have any complaints with this game, but because this game feels so repetitive, yeah, it's a pretty big complaint. However, the thing that makes me not judge this game too harshly for that repetition is the price. This game still gives you so much original content and has such passion behind it, and yet it's only 20 bucks, 30 for the deluxe edition, and it goes on sale pretty frequently. So honestly, for a game being repetitive, that's not so bad with a price like that. So I'm going to give this game an 8 out of 10. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and remember, we've got spooky, scary videos about games and movies and comics all month long. So hit that subscribe button and follow us on Twitter and Twitch at Professor Thorgy. And if you want to help support this channel, then make sure you head over to our merch store over at tpublic.com/user/Professor Thorgy. Thanks for tuning in, everyone, and as always, happy Halloween.